Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today we are going to be taking a look at Greenest Fields. For those of you that don't know, this is a very unique map. On Greenest Fields, there are no metal extractor spots. If I switch out of this mode, you can see there are no mex points anywhere on the map. All of the metal comes from energy converters and reclaim. Now, you might have noticed that I put down some very interesting numbers across the field here, and that is a metal count. As some of you have pointed out in other coverings of this game, this map is a little bit imbalanced. There is, well, you know, a little more than a little bit imbalanced, actually. I ran the numbers, did the calculations, aka selected a commander and went like this. And I figured out exactly how much metal was on each side of the map here. So you can see over on this side of the map, in this big patch that I've sort of highlighted here, there is 2,150 metal up for grabs. Meanwhile, down on the southern side, there is but a lowly 650. A little bit of an imbalance, but it does mean that there should definitely be way more of a contest for this side over here, which is already well underway by Raven. Yeah, Raven, our aquamarine player, sending out the units to eat up a whole bunch of those plants and rocks and all sorts of other good things, sucking down some of that metal and taking it away from the red team. Very nicely done. Our blue team leader here, going to be Layleen Leela, and she started with the bot lab and a couple of wind producers. What are those called? Big fans. Windmills, that's the word. Couple of windmills here in order to produce a little bit of energy. Wind speed is of course very, very high on this map, and that's essentially necessary because of the fact that all of your metal again comes from energy converters. So you need a lot of energy. Energy equals metal. Everybody got that? I barely got that. Anyways, Resbot's now eating up all the metal, going to be turning it into units or buildings or whatever else anybody needs. Hopefully going to be speeding things up. Now, one of the problems on this map, or one of the features, depending on how you look at it, is your economy is very, very, shall we say, unstable. Your energy converters tend to explode at the slightest touch of a tick's schnozzle beam, and that can often lead to a devastating consequence when a lot of your energy converters are all right next to each other and they go kaboom. So for that reason, I often recommend when you're playing this map to space out your energy converters quite a bit. Make sure there's at least 2 and a little bit more, I believe is the spacing. It's like 2 and one more click, one more square, right? Hold on, let me just show you what I'm talking about here. There's 2, and then you can imagine one more set of square. You see the little boxes in there? One more square over. So you'd want your energy converter to be like right here. Right about there, and they're not going to chain react off each other, and that'll spare you the pain of having to deal with chain reacted energy converters, at least on this map, but also on many others as well. So one of the tricky things about this map is as soon as you spend your metal on bots, you don't really have much left in your bank. It's very difficult to get that metal and get the funds going once more. So doing damage on the other side of the map is great, but losing your units can be really, really painful. And so another thing that's very important on this map is making sure that you have resbots to not reclaim, not usually anyways, but to actually pick up your units and fold them back in. Oftentimes that is usually how people win the early game, is by managing to keep their armies up and alive using those resbots, either by repairing or resurrecting or both. Ideally both, of course. And I think that's going to probably be a prominent strategy here. Second game, I'm casting with these new and improved visual settings. Lovely commenter left a suggestion to turn these on. Actually, I think it was in the Brightworks Discord, which I will have a link to down below, as I have for the past, I don't know, 100 or so videos, however long it's been. Feel free to join up in case you'd like to submit replays. That's where I'm officially accepting replays now. And as well, if you'd like to join up with other Brightworks members and maybe communicate, play some games, or join me for the live streams, which are Tuesdays, Saturdays on YouTube, and Thursdays on Twitch. Anyways, details aside, we do have some pawns clashing on the right-hand side here. It looks like we have the forces of Raven coming up against the forces of MDXD, both of which trying desperately to out-micro the other, and you can see the Resbot in here eating up all of this wreckage. Like I said, I would prefer a resurrect, but frankly, I don't think there's time. Pink Panther's commander is stepping forward here, and I think it's going to be a difficult push here if you don't just reclaim all that metal. I don't think contesting it is going to be worth these pawns' times. Now, certainly this many pawns is enough to snipe a commander here. 7 pawns, but you got to remember, so much energy on this map means that Pink Panther definitely has energy for a D-gun, and it's fair to assume that that's just going to constantly be the case. little bit of a run by over here, it looks like. A little bit of damage was done. Lots of arrows pointing everywhere. I love to see it. That's good teamwork right there. Grunts going down, but eventually I think the orange forces are going to clean all this up, and essentially only to their benefit. Yeah, I mean, there's all these wreckages are left on the red player's field, and I don't see much of a reason why they wouldn't be able to resurrect all these corpses and make a massive army out of that. Things tend to spiral very quickly on this map. It's one of those maps where it just, yeah, things tend to spiral out of control really, really fast, because the first person to get a decent economy up and running can produce just so much more. I mean, just a factor of 2 or 3 or 4 times as much as whoever else, and losing units like this, just diving these units in here, I just don't think you're gonna trade efficiently enough. Yeah, those grunts get jumped upon, and I think that's just too much sacrifice early on. You can see now the forces of red, this is across many different armies, but you can see in grand total about 1,200-ish metal in army. The forces here of Raven are looking fabulous. A lot of those units stayed alive. 16 pawns over here, but basically nobody else has any units. Uh-oh. Yep, I agree. Windmills are too close together. They're going to chain react. You have to build them in rows of 2 with a space in between. Otherwise, they will chain react, and that is a juicy, juicy target. This tick doing a wonderful job of scouting back here. If we switch to the red player's vision, you can see exactly what they found. Time shift space, as well as the forces of Thunderhawk, and that's quite nice. That allows at least a little bit more understanding of the map. Strategies that work pretty well in this map. One of the things is walls, oftentimes underutilized in most normal games, but in this matchup, very, very powerful. Of course, walls shut down T1 units pretty well. T1 units have a rough time breaking through those. Takes them a good long while, and definitely enough time for you to move your forces into position. A couple of LLTs behind the walls also makes for a really stalwart defense. Definitely worth considering. Grunts here have found the opportunity path, though. A lot of them lost their lives to open that path up, but still, I think it was worth it. Yeah, these grunts are well into the back line. This is all looking prone to chain react here. Oh, yep, I think he sees it. Wise Guy 47 does spy the energy converters. Oh, we need to set target. We need to set target. Does not manage to set target, so that's going to be a little bit of a miss micro. Not managing to pop the very vital economy sector right there. And so I think ultimately most of this damage will be deflected. Yeah, a little bit of damage on the solar panels. Those healed themselves right on up. So I really don't think this is going to be the end of the world. LLTs to shut down any sort of tick harassment, or maybe just slow pushes with grunts, anything like that. Definitely going to be worth investing in, but of course you have to balance how many LLTs you go into against how many units you want to produce. And typically speaking, units tend to be a little bit better than static defense. So much metal and T1 solar panels, really not the ideal solution here, especially with how high the wind speed is. Definitely well worth going into wind turbines, and wouldn't recommend the solar panels. I'm always averse to the solar panels, but especially on a map with wind speed this high, definitely just not worth it. Okay. Well, eventually those explosions will deal with those pawns, but I think they got enough damage. That being said, a lot of them did go down here and leave their corpses intact, meaning, of course, once more, Resbots can get to work over here, and I think that's what they'll do. These ones are on a repair command, actually. I hope they switch to Resurrect, because I would really love to see that. I think it's one way that you can come back in a game like this after losing most of your economy, is to just produce a lot of Resbots and get them all resurrecting. If you have a lot of energy overflow and enough time, essentially no reason not to. Repair command is also pretty nice, though. Fixing up all the bots that you can is always well worth it. Map control feels a little bit more tight on the red team. However, it tends to fluctuate on big maps like this. Essentially, whoever manages to keep a collection of forces out there on the field. Thugs are out here, but there's no Resbot support. At least not out on the field. There is a Resbot, but it's not out there with the thugs. I think if the Resbot was with the thugs, I'd like it a little bit more. Right now, a little bit more aggression over here on the southern side. Southwestern forces have moved in for the red team and are eventually going to be deflected here by the pawns of Thunderhawk. However, a little bit of damage has already been done. Most importantly, 2 constructors going down. Constructors which were tasked entirely with building the future economy of Thunderhawk here. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Did Thunderhawk take a player's base here? I'm not sure exactly what happened. Yeah, it looks like that's what happened. Time shift lagged out of the game, and so was taken by Thunderhawk. Which, because I noticed he had 2 commanders here, I was a little bit confused. Kind of nice, right? Because you can use your commander as just a portable windmill builder, but yeah, also going to be a little bit difficult because you have an entire side of the map to micro. Now, I'd love to see some units built and sent across the map here. It would be excellent to catch any of these res bots. This is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of energy in all these trees right here, so well worth trying to get a decent enough reclaim on. Thugs getting jumped on by pawns, and this is really not where you want to lose all your metal. Yep, that's just too much metal thrown away in the middle of the map. You really have to be conservative with your metal expenditures on this map. It's not like an ordinary game. There's no metal extractors to jumpstart that exponential growth in the economies, right? That's usually what we see is, you know, 2 metal leads to 4 metal, leads to 8 metal, leads to 16 metal, and so on and so forth. In this one, you start with 1 metal, leads to 1 metal, leads to 1 metal, leads to 2 metal, leads to 2 metal, right? And it eventually gets there, but it just takes 4 times as long, more or less. It of course means that we get to see a whole lot of T1 aggression, so we see these beautiful lines of units being formed here, as we can see these pawns trying to deflect other pawns trying to come in from the red team here. Nicely done with the posturing. Would love to see some radars going up all over the place, making sure that we have vision, radar coverage all over the place. One of those things that I think would probably be well worth investing in. You can see the radar coverage here for the blue team, as well as the vision cones for the blue as well. About half the map, which is pretty good. Let's check on the red team. Red team's radar is a little slacking, especially on this left-hand side, which is actually quite worrisome because a run-by over here of the forces on the left-hand side could certainly be damaging. You can see that there's already pawns coming out. Thunderhawk now with the benefit of 2 players worth of economy. Going into a lot of advanced solar panels. Listen, I'm a fan of the advanced solar panel, but when you got the wind, you might as well use it. Tons and tons of wind turbines. I like this a whole lot more. I'd love to see more rows of 2 wind turbines rather than any more advanced solar panel. It's just too much metal to go into. Despite it being relatively efficient, it's just still way too much metal to go into. Anyways, units on the left-hand side could move in. They could go for a huge counterattack over on this side. Massive opportunity path directly into the red base right here, and it's a bit of a bummer that Thunderhawk hasn't noticed that. If they did, I think they would probably be able to solidly reclaim this game, but as for right now, the red team is crushing in on the blue forces. You can see Orange navigating 2 different armies, 2 different contingencies into position here. We've got Tan as well, keeping a force together. Oh, yep, don't let those rockets connect. A little bit of AoE on those bad boys. They're perfect for shutting down big clumps of grunts. Pawns in the front also acting as a nice little HP buffer, though. Nicely done. Take a good engagement here. I think these pawns could wrap on these grunts here. You gotta spread them out. Oh, this is bald warfare. Maybe this is a bit of a niche callback, a bit of an odd point to make here, but it reminds me of youth soccer leagues where all the I used to referee for youth soccer leagues, and one of the things was the little kids when they're learning how to play soccer or football, depending on where you're from, when they're learning how to play, you know, it's not so much passing and dribbling and strategies as it is more so just everybody gather around the ball as much as you can and kick it as hard as you can, which is hilarious to watch, and it's what these pawn formations remind me of when they're all just clumped up together running towards each other. Resbots right here are really important. They need to eat up that commander wreckage, but there's just not enough forces here. Raven is moving the commander in here. Could certainly get the wreckage, but could also D-gun it here, and that might be what we're going for. Oh, some D-guns. Raven's commander actually in a lot of trouble. Stepped forward, but doesn't have the support of his own forces. Resbots picking this place apart, though. They do manage to eat up the majority of that commander's corpse. Very nicely done. Resbots here from light pink as well, moving in to eat up the corpse of this commander. I think there's going to be enough forces to shut that down. Oh, they're resurrecting there. Interesting. Well, we'll call it a commander for a commander here. Not all of the commander was eaten up either, and there's still plenty more metal lying around, but 2.1 thousand metal right here. Could certainly use that to go into a T2 transition, and I think that might be well worth it. That is a lot of blitzes right here for Layla. Oh, and she's looking at a counterattack. This is perfect. This is exactly what we need to see. A counterattack over on this side of the map is going to force out quite a bit of counterplay here. The orange team, or well, rather, calling it the orange team because it feels like that's who's fighting the front line. The red team here. They're going to have to address this. They're going to need to address these blitzes moving across the map over in this direction somehow, some way, and thugs really aren't the way to do it. Thugs are just way too slow to deal with any of those. We do have pounders out as well. Ooh, the pounders are a good choice on this map, especially against this much T1 spam. Those pounders are going to go a really, really beautiful trade. Resbot support would be nice to patch all these up, so that's some way that maybe the teammates could contribute a little more here. Yep. Pounder's doing a great job of getting in there and shutting down a whole lot of these units, though. A lot worse against the thugs, but still a lot worse, but still way better. Does that make sense? They're bad, but they're good. You know what I'm trying to say. Pawn's diving now, and managing to get too much of the eco. There's a lot of clumped up wind turbines, though. All of this is prone to chain reacting. All of this will chain react. All of this will chain react. You need a little bit more than that as far as space goes. Trust me, I've built them this way. I know the pain. Yeah, the blue team finds nothing over here. The red team finally notices all of these blitzes moving around over here. These blitzes need to jump on the red base. They could get so much damage done right now. I think they see it. Layla trying to move her forces in. They don't find the commander yet. There's two of them. Oh, we need to avoid those commanders. Don't go for the commander kill. Definitely want to try and kill the eco. Nice little D-guns here from both of these commanders, though. Shutting down the blitzes one by one. Oh, that is so unfortunate. Those blitzes could have wrapped in any other direction in order to do tons of damage. Here comes another contingent, though, and they're headed right towards the bot lab. Yep. Oh, not right on top of the energy converters. Okay, well, there goes a lot of them. Still, though, I think there's enough of them to pop all of the build power over here. Ooh, hounds are out now. Pawns are jumping on top of all this. Wow, all said and done, that was a really, really nice hold there by Xenofox and not Liam. That could have been so much worse if those blitzes had all gone in simultaneously and gummed up all of the wind turbines here. That could have absolutely shut down the economies for both of these red players, and didn't happen. It was deflected quite nicely here. Not to mention all the metal that is now available on the ground. All said and done, very nicely done. Layla in a bit of a predicament. Yeah, that's a lot of metal that went into all of those units, and now there's not really a lot on the back end. Also, leaking metal here. Decides to go into T2. I don't hate that idea. Especially if your teammates are floating metal to you, you might as well use it. Commander is reclaiming. Constructors are building. This is an odd dance. Oh, there we go. Okay, we meant to reclaim the T1 lab. I was a little confused about that. There we go. Oh, a bomber is out. Now that's a powerhouse right there. I mean, you can imagine bombers connecting with a lot of these wind turbines, right? Like, look at that juicy field of wind turbines. Ooh, a bomber coming across there would be really, really powerful. I'd love to see these spaced out a little bit. At the very least, spacing them out in some sort of a grid or something, just to make sure that you're not, you know, not completely out of the woods if you take a hit or two. I don't know. Vehicles trade very nicely, but also you have to have the Resbots to support this. Centurions are even out here. Januses will make short work of all those, though. One by one, the Januses are also being lasered down here. Yeah, I mean, all this reclaim is in the red player's field here. Whoa, big bomber wave coming out. Did we scout? I hope we scouted. I did see a scout plane at one point, but I don't know if it found too much. It looks like we absolutely did. All the intel is in the brown player's hands here. Let's look at these bombers, see what they're targeting. Oh, they're going to go after the T2 lab. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, nice. Oh, there we go. They do get the T2 lab. That's quite nice. Change up the targets. We need to disperse these bombers. Stormbringers are really powerful at carpet bombing a huge, wide area, and using them to snipe specific targets is a little bit less powerful for those bombers. They tend to do a lot better if you use them to cover a wide area. Not managing to get that vehicle plan. I think all said and done. Nice that we sniped the T2 over here. That's a pretty good pick. But all said and done, I think those bombers probably could have gotten a little bit more if we had just targeted the windmills. Maybe getting a little bit too greedy there. Either way, I like the airplay, though. It doesn't look like the blue team. Yeah, nobody on the blue team is looking to go into air. Time shift going into more T1 solar panels. Maybe not realizing how powerful the wind production is on this map. I mean, one bomber comes across this and this entire, I mean, everything right here goes up in smoke. The energy converters, the wind turbines, the build power here. I mean, everything here goes into, you know, a fine mist in the air. Tanks are looking for their engagement. We need Resbots again, eating up all these wreckages on the field and repairing these tanks up. Commander is doing the job for now, but it just isn't as efficient as those Resbots are. Nicely done by Xenofox here to get a Resbot out and eat up the enemy corpses from the side where the tanks aren't protecting here, allowing single-handedly a hold on this left-hand side. Very nicely done. Hound's also getting a nice trade over here, slowly whittling down those pawns, but no reason to take your, or rather no reason to rush on that. Wouldn't mind seeing him switch into the Gauss mode, though, and a couple light laser towers are going to effectively seal the deal, I do believe. There they go. They're switching to their Gauss mode. Going to make them quite a bit more effective here, at least some of them were, temporarily. Going to make them pretty effective against a lot of those pawns. This is a dangerous army, but also that commander is dangerously low, right in the middle of all of it. Uh-oh. Oh, these Janus were looking for the snipe. They didn't manage to get it, but that was dangerously close. One more connection from some Januses, and I think that would have been the end of the entire green army. Both green armies right there. So dangerous. Oh, a lot of Janus friendly fire right there. Yikes. All right, we're moving in with the tanks. We got to commit or we got to pull back. We need to make an executive decision here, because loitering around here with no way to reclaim all of this is just going to be an expense. And at this point, the blue team can't really afford expenses. The red team's economy is pretty booming. Yeah. Fusion reactor up for Layla. Decides to switch out of T2 and go into full-blown eco mode. I don't hate it. However, you get a little too greedy and eventually bad things can happen. Happens to the best of us. The fusion reactor is up and running. We're going fusion reactor into 6 energy converters. Plenty of build power on the back of it. Looking good over here by Cancer Fry. Pink Panther going into a T2 lab here. This thing is repairing. The commander is reclaiming. Or other way around. Oh no, maybe not. Not sure exactly what's happening. Either way, Pink Panther looks like they were ravaged a little bit, but going to be trying to get back into this game here bit by bit. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the red team just held their ground, took decent enough trades to force the green player back, and then ate up all the metal. And that's a lot of res bots that didn't need to go down, but still, eating up. They've definitely eaten up their metal's worth of reclaim in order to pay themselves back, so even that loss is acceptable here. Hound's not even really a bad counter to medium tanks. You just have to kite with them. Gauss mode is quite nice. You can see immediately they start hitting their shots a whole lot more consistently. It's a niche little thing to know about, switching them between modes, but it definitely helps a lot. Allows them to kite tanks and basically anything else that moves and shoots at the same time a whole lot easier. They're very variable in that sense. Gunslingers are even brought out here. Gunslingers, of course, the pinnacle of T1 tank defense. You can see how quickly they mow through T1 tanks, but they also impulse them to shut them down. Another huge bombing run coming out, and there's just no air defense for the, well, rather no air force here for the blue team. These bombers have free reign to bomb anything that they want. They're choosing to go after the labs, but really I think they should go after the wind turbines. Wind is just the entire point of this map, and neglecting to bomb the wind turbines is a little bit of a failure here on the bombers' part. Spread them out, man. Take 3 of these and click them over here. Take these 3, click them over here. Then select them all, send them back over here. No reason to overkill. Takes about 2 or 3 Stormbringers to break windmills consistently. I usually go with 3. Usually 2 works, but sometimes it can be a little finicky, especially if they have build power lying around. Taking out the anti-air is nice. The constructor is also pretty nice here. That was a sacrifice? Yeah, that was a commander sacrificed right there. Come some of the bombers now. Trying to shut down some of the anti-air. They do manage to get it. There's a lot of nettles over here, and if we're going to clump up the bombers, yeah, those nettles are going to have a field day. Well, to be frank, I'm not super impressed with the bombing here. I think it could probably be a little bit better, but it's hard to bag on Saturn. 4 shrew skill, a couple of chevrons, probably still learning the game. All said and done, I think a better move there would be to take 3 bombers each and split them off to go target individual windmill clumps, and then as you watch and notice that those windmills are blown up, you just put them on a new windmill group, and you select another one and you put them on a new windmill group, and one by one you're eventually going to take down enough windmills. Also, be sure to distribute your pain, right? Raven is now out of the game, at least for the time being. I think that was their last constructor, actually. Yeah, it looks like it. Last constructor there for Raven. Means that for the time being you might as well harass down other players, as Raven is not really going to be contributing here as the air player here for the red team. I do like that we included the fighters though. That was quite nice. There's something to praise. T1 units being pumped out in mass here, but I really think T1 is kind of fading into the distance behind us. I really didn't expect this push to get very far, but I guess I would be neglecting my duties if I didn't look at it. Yeah, a couple of grunts do get into the backline here, and they managed to break through the defensive measures that were sent to shut them down. Now blowing up all the windmills as they run away from the explosions themselves. It's kind of a cool scene right there. That's a lot of damage from just a couple of grunts running through your backline, taking out a whole row of wind turbines here. Yeah, nicely done. These are grunts with a purpose right now. Could just reclaim them. That one's on 0% health, that one's on 12. Eventually they will be shut down, but they have no business being that effective on the right-hand side. Has the blue team recognized that the right side is completely destroyed? Constructor's now running away for Raven, by the way. I didn't realize he had a couple of these, but they were working on different windmill fields. Remember, strips of 2, 2 by X, rows of 2, in other words, and 2 constructors per row. Works pretty good. Works like a treat. Nostradamus figured that out in his game I covered a little while back there. Go check that one out if you haven't. It was a really cool one. Pawns jumping on top of hounds. I mean, enough pawns and you're gonna win. Hound's taking a really nice trade here, but eventually there's just too many pawns and they will eventually go down. It's a lot of T1, but you know, the Great Wall has been semi-completed. A little bit lackluster over here on this right-hand side, but semi-completed to keep T1 out. Nice little scout, by the way. I did see that scout plane from Saturn. Counter bombing run over here, and you can see so much damage from dropping just a couple of bombs over here. Very nicely done. Took out this huge clump of economy for the red player right here. Beautiful. If we get one over here on this right-hand side. Oh, looks like we did get one. Oh no, we're reclaiming over here. I see. I was going to say there's some wind turbines missing here. Nicely done. We already have a fusion reactor, and we're working on a second one here. Eating up the wind turbines. I mean, it's you know, it's one of those things that you rarely have the APM to do, but if you're going to be going into heavy eco in the backline, it does make sense. Can't select these wind turbines for some reason. There we go. Weird. Trying to select these so that I can figure out exactly how many our hot pink player has. There we go. Get them all? Yeah, more or less. About 3,000 metal. That's about half of them, so maybe save 5,000 metal in solar panels, or wind turbines rather. Well worth trying to get yourself, get that metal back and turn it into a fusion reactor. I can admire that. A couple of lightning tanks were sacrificed here. They probably could have sniped the commander, but they were mismicroed a little bit, and so the commander will live for now. Lightning tanks trade phenomenally against T1 bots. They're almost designed to counter them. The splash from their lightning, as well as just the raw damage they do, is something on a whole different level. We do have some gunships moving out. T1 gunships, the Banshee. Not a commonly good unit. Not a unit that I oftentimes find myself encouraging people to use. However, this map is a unique one, and certainly Banshees can get quite a bit of value out if they're used strategically here. Now, these fighters are doing a great job of cleaning up these Banshee, shooting them out of the sky before they manage to do basically any damage. That's very nicely done by the green player. Well done recognizing that before that becomes a real problem. Welders are hitting the field. Very tanky unit, very difficult to deal with, especially with T1 units. They're sort of, again, designed to deal with that spam, right? The splash from their lightning is really good, and also you just do a lot of damage. A lot of damage plus some splash damage really just means a whole lot of good times for anybody using them. See how they burst through those tanks quite easily. Somehow Welder versus Jaguar seems like just a cursed composition. 2 fusion reactors up now for Layla, pumping out a whole bunch of T1 units. Aggression over here on this side of the map, right hand side. Lightning tanks trying to make a difference over here. Grunts continuing to run by. Light laser turrets were set up though, and they will, at least for the time being, hold on. Heavy laser tower as well, also included. Going to help in the burning through of the armor plating on a lot of these bots. These are all reconstituted bots, or a lot of them are anyways, which is always nice. Feels like a very efficient trade whenever you can res some bots and then throw them back at the enemy. It's obviously a very a metal positive trade, right? Another bombing run coming up from the green player, targeting the T2 lab. I think the brown player set a bad example. Oh no, they aren't. They're targeting the fusion reactor. That's a way better mark right there. Unfortunately, oh, never mind. I was gonna say unfortunately Stormbringers suck, but that worked out phenomenally. all of the economy right there did just go down. The bombers did manage to take out all of the fusion reactors. That was really nicely done by the green player. Excellent snipe right there. Going to shut down this welder production, targeting exactly the player that I think they should have. The pawns have found their mark, and they're going to start marching in here. Snipe on that commander would be quite nice. Wow, red player actually taps out of the game at that. That's quite bad. The red team is now without its leader. Pawns now invading the fronts. The lines have been broken. The energy converters are being targeted. Fusion reactors are in trouble. Wind turbines are popping left and right. This is a bad day for the red team. They definitely thought they had it with all those welders out on the field, but this is slowly crumbling. Like sand between their fingertips. They feel it slipping away here. Too many of those fusion reactors go down and you lose your advantage. Oh, Xenofox having a little bit of APM runoff into chat here. Already left the game, but still hasn't left the chat. Always lovely to see. Big gunslinger wall over here. I actually don't mind it. I mean, if your enemy's going to go into super heavy T1 tank production, sorry, super tremendous T1 tank production, super exuberant T1 tank production. They're not super heavy tanks. They're just medium tanks, but a lot of them. If your enemy's going to go for that, gunslingers are going to work pretty well is what I'm trying to say. More bombers. Yeah, looks like that's what we got queued up. And I don't mind it one bit. No, I'd love a scout, though. Did we ever scout these players over here? No, we did not. So 1 or 2 scout planes, I mean, probably more than that. 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, just to make sure that we get past the light anti-air that's been set up over here. But it shouldn't take too many more than that in order to get a decent view of what's going on over here on this right-hand side. I think if the red team managed to, or sorry, if the blue team managed to scout all these advanced fusion reactors back here and all these clumped up energy converters, it would certainly be a target of interest. Do we have any flak turrets down to guard all this? Doesn't look like it yet. Oh, there's one from yellow. Okay. None over on this right-hand side, which does present itself as a bit of a weakness. But again, only going to find that if you do a little bit of scouting here. So I think I'd love to see that on behalf of the green player. One of my favorite cues for the air lab here is to go for 5 bombers, 1 scout, 2 fighters. Usually gives you a decent enough composition to go for a pretty good bombing run. And after a couple minutes of production, you typically end up with enough bombers to do some serious damage, enough fighters to protect the bombers, and enough scout planes to give yourself decent enough vision as to what you should be targeting. A little bit of a stalemate here. Nobody really wants to get aggressive on the field. These lightning tanks are very threatening to all the hounds, all the T1 bots, basically everything. Nobody wants to step within range of those. Mauser are now coming up in order to suppress any enemies from long range that need to be quote-unquote taken care of. Rovers are now being produced. Are we starting up unit spam? Oh, interesting. Yeah, it looks like we are. Okay. Unit spam is starting up. Unit spam is very metal intensive, so it's always a bit of a question, a bit of a raised eyebrow, right? A bit of a questionable decision whenever I see that on a map quite like this, but I really think it could do wonders for especially the Mauser over here, but also you know, any other units that need long range vision. Sharpshooters come to mind, but there are plenty of others. Fat boys as well. Starlights, also a possibility. Yeah, and look at those Jaguars. They just melted through all of that T2 composition right there. Mauser firing away as well, also contributing a significant amount of firepower, now being pumped out en masse. Mobile artillery are quite cheap for their power. 270 metal and 4,100 energy is, I mean, basically nothing for the amount of crazy high damage that you get for this unit. Now, bear in mind, it is a remarkably undurable unit. I mean, the cheapest T1 is able to quickly burn through Mauser if it jumps on top of them, but if you use your Mauser correctly, as we can see the blue player is, by making sure to mount some sort of HP shield in front, that would be the welders and the Jaguar, as well as some sort of AoE protection in the front, or some sort of anti-spam protection, which would be the Jaguar and the welder. Yeah, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. Mauser great against all that T1 garbage as well, because, well, they do a little bit of AoE on their attacks, which tends to translate well into many, many shattered and broken corpses on the front lines. Aggression on this left-hand side, which is long since warranted. I mean, this left-hand side has just been completely neglected. All of the battle has been fought over on this line, which I guess makes sense. The red team is kind of clustered into this back right-hand side, but yeah, holding on to just one lane definitely doesn't really benefit you if you're just going to have the same units fighting there over and over. You might as well run a couple of units around this side, at the very least probing to see what you can find. Sprinters are coming up, and those are also very powerful here. The heavy laser wall is coming up and online. Well, it's basically already up and online, but it's not quite completed. kind of a missing section over here. Sorry, I'm missing an engagement over on this right-hand side. Mauser, for the most part, just ravaging everything over here. Bombers do connect, though, with all of those energy converters. Wind turbines go up in smoke. All of it pops. Dozer accidentally scouted with his bombers and found the economy over here. Said, that's really bad. Cancer Fry now starting up Marauder production on 2 advanced fusion reactors, 2 fusion reactors, and tons of energy converters to boot. Definitely more than enough to produce a steady and healthy stream of Marauders, and so I think this is a killer move to go for. Those Marauders are starting to build up in numbers. Shortly, they will be able to overwhelm all of these units over here, the Mauser, and after that, there's not a whole lot that's left to stop them. You need something equally fast and equally durable, and essentially, your option is the Marauder. The Marauder is unique in class. It's very quick, it's very durable, it's very cheap, relatively speaking anyways. They're very tough to stop. Very, very impossible to shut down. Bunch of spider bots have been included over here. Spider bot. Anyways. Yeah, spider bots are pretty good on this map, actually. They're good on basically any open, flat map. They tend to perform pretty well. Bunch of aggression over here with a whole bunch of pawns marching through here, but I think the heavy laser towers in conjunction with supporting and reinforcing forces are going to be enough to clean all this up. Marauder have now been shown, and I mean, if the bombers didn't scout that this was coming, well, now the blue player has seen this. At least the Aquamarine blue player has. Layla trying to get in front of this here with the commander, actually lining up quite nicely. It's like teeing up for a perfect strike. Oh, very nicely. Commander does. Oh, well, a little bit of a weird cue there. Oh, on repeat. Wait, is that what it was? I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Shift queuing, maybe? Whatever happened there, the commander was given a bit of an odd cue, but still managed to degun down a lot of those Marauder. It's a bit of a band-aid on a massive, massive open wound, though. I mean, there's so many Marauder being pumped out at this point. The economy is just spiraling out of control. Marauder now in the back line. Now, they will be flashed down eventually by LLZs and commander degun fire, but still more of them stream through the never-ending tide of Marauders. Of course, when you degun something, you don't get its wreckage, right? So the metal is essentially wasted from these Marauder. Nobody went into proper T3 production over here, despite having enough time to eco over here. Went into 3 fusion reactors instead of those advanced fusion reactors, and I think eventually this is going to be a swing in the tides of the battle here for the red team as these Marauders start to disassemble this base 1 energy converter at a time. Yeah, good luck shutting that down. You're going to need a decent force here. Bulls are pretty good. Bulls are one option, but of course they can't really catch the Marauder. Well, if the Marauder stands still, I suppose they can. Okay. Shut down the Marauder. I think the Marauder might have been able to be microed a little bit better. I feel like if you're, you know, you have 1 Marauder on the other side of the map, you might as well micro your heart out with it, but maybe focusing a little more on the economy over here. Did we get bombed again? Doesn't look like it. Have you tried talking about their mothers? They're the bombers. Looks like they're blocking construction progress. That's always a bit of a pain. What do you do when an enemy's unit is blocking your construction? Do you just reclaim it? I mean, you can ping it and ask them to move it, but what if they don't do? What if they don't do that? What if they don't move it? Then what? Quakers are out now. Orange Quakers. And they're the Mauser counterpart. A little bit more expensive, I believe. I think they're 10 metal more expensive, but they basically do the same job. I'm biased towards the Mauser, and I don't exactly know why. I think I just like the shape of them a little better. I like the tripod shape. Marauder are super clumped up here, and I don't know why. Spreading them out is almost always going to net you a better trade, eventually. I guess the ball kind of protects the ones in the middle. It's very Ender's Game here, but oh, you clump them up, and the king, the commander, can get a massive degun shot. Manages to shut down a lot of these Marauder before they even manage to get a really big connection here. Tons and tons of bombers are being produced by the green player, sort of hoping for a Hail Mary, it seems, but this is so many forces spread out by the maroon player on this left-hand side. This is exactly what I've been waiting for here. I don't see why these forces couldn't have moved in a lot sooner, but it's better late than never. Just queue them in. I think you could well do it. Razorback now coming out. These are going to be hard to stop. Yeah, I don't really see anything from the blue team that could stop the Razorback short of, again, some phenomenal deguns. We're really going to need the commanders on point in order to shut those down, but I just don't see how Layla's going to be able to get her commander in front of those Razorbacks in time, while also simultaneously trying to deal with this massive push over here. I think the economies have just spiraled out of control, and I think the red team is now just pulling into the lead slowly but surely. Doesn't look like it. They don't really have that big of an economic advantage, but a lot more of their metal is in units right now, and high quality units, if anything. He said Razorbacks can't shoot over T1 walls. Yeah, that's that's one of the shortcomings of the Razorback, is their guns are mounted too low. I complain about this every time, but it's just one of those things, I suppose. Take my eyes off those and come look over here. Gunslingers, spiders, interesting combination, but man, is it powerful. Looks like it's really putting in the work here. Yeah. All right, gunslingers kind of shut down any of those units from moving with the impulse. Spiders fire their rockets and take it all down. I like it. Razorbacks mounted over here on the right-hand side. Sharpshooters pushing through here. It's a difference in quality, right? Despite all the metal incomes being the same, you can just see that the red team has such a higher quality composition of units here. And eventually, I think that's going to make all the world of a difference. One of the Razorbacks went down, but there's, I mean, 3 more ready to take its place. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world here. And I think eventually he's going to burn through whatever base they decide to punish, blasting away at all of the units over here. This one's a little shy. Punched right through the middle here with the maroon forces. Right over on the right-hand side with a couple of strategic Razorback. And now the last Bastion holds out. The tick flow is unending, but it looks like the blue team will decide to tap out after losing 60% or so of all of their production and their bases and their players and everything else to boot. Very nicely done by the red team, especially Cancerfry, managing to pull out the T3 exactly when the team needed it, coming back from the very last possible brink here. I think those T1 units could have gotten way more aggressive right here in the middle of the map, especially in the mid game there. I think there was a lot of opportunities that the blue team had in order to punish the red team, and I think they just didn't take too many of them, or at the very least not enough of them. And I think that allowed the time that the red team needed to come back and win this game. Very nicely done. Very lovely to see. Let's take a look at these graphs here. Yeah, I mean, you can see this is what happens. You let someone eco uncontested here. Those bombers didn't manage to take out any of the eco. This is what you end up with. You get an exponential graph like this, and at that point, it is just too hard to stop whichever player has that much economy. Very nicely done. Take a look at these statistics here, but I hope you have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you in the very next Beyond All Reason video. Peace out, folks.